Hello dear viewers. Today we will follow Japanese fishermen out to sea, on a special fishing trip, hunting giant moray eels in the vast ocean, where every wave, every gust of wind, and every strong jerk from the depths of the sea brings drama and suspense. Moray eels, a catfish with a ferocious head, razor-sharp teeth and a length that can exceed 2 meters, are one of the most difficult and dangerous hunting objects. Not only because of their strength and ferocity, but also because their habitat is often deep coral reefs, rocky crevices, where long fishing lines must weave through hundreds of meters of cold, dark water to find them. While the night was still dark, the harbor was bustling with the sound of engines, people calling each other and the sound of cables hitting the ship's hull. On deck, the fishermen had prepared hundreds of meters of long fishing lines, each with a hook as big as the palm of a hand. And baited with pieces of fresh, fatty fish. Catching moray eels is not like normal fishing. The bait must be very fresh, with a strong fishy smell to stimulate their extremely sensitive sense of smell in the salt water. The Japanese often choose small fish that have just been caught as bait, cutting them into pieces that are just enough for the eels to bite tightly but not easy to swallow immediately. The ship gradually cut through the waves and moved into deep water. Where the long fishing line system was lowered like giant snakes hiding under the deep blue water. Each main line had dozens of branch lines, suspended in the water column, forming a giant wall of bait. The line had to be dropped skillfully to avoid tangles. Each roll of line was passed through the hands of experienced fishermen, slid gently through the pulleys, and rushed into the sea. Just one small mistake, the lines tangled together, and the whole catch was ruined. Taking hours to untangle. The waiting period is the biggest challenge. Morays often hunt when the tide changes, especially at dawn or dusk. The fishermen stand scattered on the deck, their eyes on each buoy marker, their ears listening for the beep signal from the sensor attached to the rope, a modern tool that helps detect unusual pulling forces from deep below. When the signal sounds, the group immediately gets into position. Their hands gripping the rope tightly, feeling each strong tug as if the end of the rope is tied to a block of live steel. Pulling morays up is not easy. Their bodies are long and flexible, constantly twisting, and their sharp teeth can bite off steel hooks if they are careless. The fishermen have to coordinate smoothly. One person holds the rope. The other uses a hook to control the eel's head when it rises to the surface of the water. Preventing it from swinging violently against them. There are some nearly 3 meters long, with bodies as thick as an adult's thigh, weighing up to 50 kilograms. Just one tail swing is enough to knock a person down. When the eel was pulled close to the side of the ship, a fisherman quickly stabbed an iron hook into the head, held it tight, and tied it with a rope before bringing it to the deck. On deck, the processing began immediately. With moray eels, time is the deciding factor in the quality of the meat. The last moray eels were neatly stacked in the cold compartment, their long, shiny bodies lying still after a fierce struggle with the calloused hands of the fishermen. The sun was high in the sky, the sunlight reflecting on the sea surface, the ocean wind blowing salty and stinging. On the deck, a few fishermen took a break, sipping hot tea, but their eyes were still looking out to the distant horizon. Where the next part of the trip would begin. Without stopping for long, the captain signaled to change direction. The rudder turned gently, the ship cut through the waves towards deeper waters, where giant schools of tuna still moved day and night following the ocean currents. Today, they not only returned with Moray eels, but also wanted to try their luck and skills with the fish known as the Speed King of the ocean. The long lines were pulled out again. But this time they were specially made for tuna, stronger lines, bigger hooks, and baited with fresh mackerel and squid caught that morning. Tuna fishing with long lines by hand requires tremendous endurance. Each jerk from the depths is a test of muscle, as the hundreds of kilos of fish try to escape the steel hook. The fishermen stood in rows, each holding a piece of line, their eyes following the bobbing buoys, listening for the slightest signal from the water below. Suddenly, a shout broke the salty air of the sea breeze. The lines were taut like a guitar string, vibrating violently, and a fisherman began to pull. Each meter of line was pulled rhythmically, slowly but surely, because if one was in a hurry, the line could break or the hook could slip out of the fish's mouth. The battle between man and fish took place right on the deck of the ship, below. The tuna struggled fiercely. Above, the hands of the person pulling the rope were already bleeding, but his eyes still shone with determination. When the silvery body of the fish gradually appeared under the water, cheers rang out. Two other fishermen quickly used a hook to control it, then coordinated to pull the nearly 200 kilograms fish onto the deck. Under the sunlight, its blue and silver scales shone like a vivid work of art from the ocean. Without hesitation, they brought the fish to the processing area right on the ship. A neat knife cut off the characteristic bright red meat. The fish fat shimmered like oil. The sweet fishy scent spread throughout the deck. One part was thinly sliced for a fresh sashimi meal right in the middle of the sea. The rest was kept in cold storage, ready for the return trip. From moray eel fishing to tuna fishing, the journey of Japanese fishermen is a series of challenges, skills and joy of victory. Amidst the vast waters, they not only hunt for marine products, but also live with the sea, understand every breath of the ocean, and bring back to the mainland the most precious gifts from the deep sea. On deck, after the first giant tuna was brought into the hold, the atmosphere became heated. Everyone knew that there might be more of them moving in the school. The hooks were carefully checked again. The bait was replaced. Each piece of line was carefully lowered into the water to avoid tangling. Because if there was even a little tangling, the whole golden opportunity would be lost. The sea surf had now turned dark blue. The waves were larger due to the strong offshore wind. The captain observed the horizon with sharp eyes, looking for strange ripples on the water surface, signs of a school of tuna chasing a school of small fish. When he pointed in a direction, the entire crew immediately focused on pulling the line in that direction. The bait was quickly swept away as soon as it touched the water, as if below was another. another world full of hungry predators. A shout rang out as a fisherman's line jerked. He tightened his thick gloves, his muscles bulging as he began to pull. Each meter of line was slowly pulled back, at times almost stopping when the fish darted away, pulling the entire line whistling in the air. Sweat streamed down his sunburned face, but his eyes were still bright, focused on the pull. The group around him was also ready to assist whenever he needed it. Under the water, a giant black shadow began to appear. As it approached the surface, the silver light on the fish's body reflected the sunlight, shining brightly. A strong splash caused water to splash, but two other fishermen managed to hook their fishing rods into the fish's gills and hold it tight. The coordinated lifting brought the heavy tuna onto the deck. The sound of applause and cheers mixed with the sound of waves and wind, creating a sound of victory in the middle of the ocean. Immediately, the fish were processed to preserve the quality of the meat. Sharp knives cut along the spine, revealing bright red meat and ivory white fat. The best part of the meat, toro, is cut separately and placed on a stainless steel tray, as this is the part that is sought after by high-end sushi restaurants at extremely high prices. The rest is divided into small pieces and immediately frozen for preservation. The last giant tuna of the fishing trip was brought into the cold compartment. Everyone was panting after hours of struggling with the ocean, but their eyes were still bright, and their hands had not let go of the rhythm of work. On the deck, the captain signaled to move to the next stage, using the giant seine net to catch fish. No one said much. Everyone dispersed to familiar positions, like a machine programmed from decades of experience at sea. The engine noise grew louder. The ship accelerated, cutting through the white-capped waves towards the area detected by the fish finder. In the distance, the sea surface rippled abnormally, each small wave breaking out into a sparkling silver light, a sign of a large school of fish hunting for prey. The command to drop the net was given, and immediately the hundreds of meters thick net rolls were dropped, slithering like giant snakes under the deep blue water. Yellow buoys floated on the sea surface, marking the gradually closing encirclement. The moment the net closed, the water surface seemed to boil. Hundreds of silver fish wriggled, their scales reflecting the sunlight, creating flashing spots of light. The fishermen began to pull in the nets, a laborious task that required both human and mechanical strength. Seawater splashed with each pull, the sound of the nets tightening and screeching mixed with the sound of the waves. Fish as big as an adult's arm were pulled up, still struggling, their tails lashing against the side of the ship, creating a resounding pop each time the net was lifted high. A group of fishermen used large nets or iron hooks to bring the fish onto the deck. Each lift was a weight of nearly 100 kilograms that fell heavily onto the wooden floor, creating streaks of salty water and a fishy smell that filled the air. Immediately, The fish was sorted. The largest ones were taken to the processing area. Sharp knives slashed along the body, revealing bright red flesh and sparkling ivory white fat. All were put into stainless steel tanks, then quickly transferred to deep freeze compartments to preserve their quality. The hectic work atmosphere lasted until the sunset. The sunset covered the sea in red and gold, reflecting on the shiny silver fish bodies that filled the deck. From the tug-of-war with tuna on the fishing line, to the heavy nets, the whole trip was a symphony of strength, skill and solidarity. The ship turned back to port, leaving behind the long waves, carrying in its hold the results of a hard but proud day of work of the Japanese fishermen. If you want, I can rewrite the whole thing from scratch to have a seamless flow of Moray fishing, right pointing arrow tuna fishing, right pointing arrow tuna fishing with nets of about 4,000–5,000 words. With more climaxes and details. Enough for a long video. Do you want me to do the complete version?